And here we go with a follow review of the Mount Coast S1. All right, everybody. So as you know, I am doing a full summer of Mount Coast, going through their entire line, S1, P1, R1, T1, okay? Yesterday you got the P1 follow-up, today you get the S1. And how I'm rotating these is just that. I am rotating the S1 and P1 specifically for work purposes, and the way I do that is I'm there in the office, different surfaces, 9 hours at a time, and I'm standing at my desk or seeing patients, one or the other, but putting, as much time on feet as possible, which is very typical, but feel to include the shoes as part of that for the testing. Okay, and so here we are with the S1 and just seeing how it looks. Okay, and then basically it's a durability test and all the other things kind of going along with this. Okay, so I did receive this last year around the time, well, no, not around the time that it came out, but a couple months after. But anyway, I did a review as far as the running goes, but here we are starting fresh in the summertime with some current mileage in, and then of course now some months since the beginning of June-ish. Okay, so there's the backstory, and then having a look and how my gut instinct for the shoe is that it still is performing well, and the comfort, the durability, the craftsmanship, the springiness to the midsole is very, very evident in the shoe still. Okay, and then another thing, the same thing that happened with the P1, and here we are with the S1. I have a tendency to supinate or really walk very hard on the outside distal aspect of the shoes with my gait, and typically by just a few weeks in, I usually have a lot of wear and tear and even some balding in some cases of like most midsoles, outsoles, but not in the case of the S1 here or the P1. Or the R1 or the T1. Okay, so Mount Coast definitely making some good quality outsoles there with their rubber. I don't know specifically what compound they're using, but they can continue to use that because that is super awesome. Okay, let's see. Any obvious negatives that I'm noticing? I mean, there is kind of a flattening of the arch, I suppose. As far as like any, I would consider that a moderate arch support, noticeable arch support in the shoe in the beginning. That is starting to flatten out. But what has taken over is what I feel is really kind of unique to Mount Coast is this zero sag. It is a material done in conjunction with BASF and Mount Coast that goes and hangs out directly under your big toe joint here and kind of wraps around the midfoot and kind of comes out towards the cuboid bone down here. Okay, all right, and it could be mind over matter, but I do feel there is a little bit more hammocking or support going on in that area that is supposedly hanging out. Okay, I'm not planning on cutting open these shoes. Other channels do that, so I don't know the exact location of that. Okay, there are schematics on the interwebs. Anyways, and then this light cell, this midsole compound, this is a PIBA-based, nitrogen-infused midsole that is, on the spectrum of PIBA-based midsoles. I'm thinking about other shoes that have this same kind of thing, characteristics going on, and some of them, it seems like can go one or two directions. All right, it can be like super lively, bouncy, energetic, and then maybe break down a little soonish, and then it's this, which I feel like would be the opposite. Yeah, the opposite end of it, more towards the other end of it, in that it's very durable and still has a lot of zest and spring and characteristics that was noticeable in the beginning of the shoe, became even more relevant or prevalent as the shoe became broken in, which I would say 10, 15 miles, maybe even less, that you really start to notice this light cell light up. And now that it's been months and months, it still is very obvious, which you know, there's been other shoes that I have tested that that feeling, that, you know, wokeness for midsoles breaks down and it's just kind of dead. And that is not the case with the Mount Coast line here, which is super duper cool. Okay, so definitely, you know, I'm thinking about value and long term. You know, everlasting gobstopper, if you will, a shoe that can be used for multiple purposes for a long period of time. You know, Mount Coast seems to be hitting that out of the park. And by the way, this is, I think, one of their first shoes that they came out with, as far as like all their shoes that they have. Definitely the first edition of this one. And right out the gate, they're already starting to make some really decent product, okay? And so, you know, moving up to the upper, it's a single layer mesh, and it's got a little softness to it. It's a little bit of stretch here to it. It feels quite nice. And, you know, we'll just say on the level of like on running, comes to mind whenever I feel this material here, as far as just kind of that level of upper material. Okay, you've got a couple of different options here. You got, you know, this here as far as the lacing goes. There's a specific word for that and it's escaping me now, but I do like some shoes that have this kind of upper option here as far as the eyelet chain for the lacing. You know, it just, I think, assists in certain pressure allowability, if you will, for kind of that midfoot bump right there in the center. Okay, and then further you have this little piece here, which you can kind of see the darkness here, how it wraps around and creates this triangle, and perhaps you can see that better right there. And it it kind of comes up from the arch area, the middle of the foot, the medial aspect, and up and around. Ultra did that with their Innov Arch back in the day, and I remember the Provision 4 having that, and it's here again. Okay, the thing that's different, you know, speaking about that shoe, is that the Provision 4 broke down around this area here pretty early on, and that was a little disappointing. But again, different company, different shoe, but similar technology, and not having any separation at all. And now that I've said that, let me actually look, and I'm looking for any kind of wear and tear for the Mount Coast S1, really getting into the nitty gritty for a long-term review of the S1. And I'm looking, I'm being nitpicky, guys. I'm looking, and you know, I'm not seeing anything. What I will say is, speaking of on, the Cloud Surfer Next did this too. You get almost this like booty going on. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you got the gusset here medially and then laterally, and then it just continues on in and around the foot, and it terminates at the very end here. As far as material goes, it goes towards actually no, it's contiguous along the entirety of the inside of the shoe. Okay, all the way down to where it's stitched into the midsole. So that's really cool. You've got a material that is soft and supple, going anywhere that your toes can potentially, and your foot can potentially touch. Okay, you combine that with a nice sock, and you got yourself a winner as far as comfort goes. Okay, man, that's just super cool. And I think I've mentioned that before, but it's just fun to see it again and just be reminded of what's going on. And also, now that we've kind of got some serious time in the shoe, to see how it's holding up, and it's just it's doing just that. I feel like a broken record with these follow-up reviews, because there's honestly nothing else to report other than it just continuing to do its thing. And then, you know, even having a look at the insert here, it seems to be, you know, properly broken in, but it's not showing any kind of premature breakdown. Okay, oh man, that's just super duper cool. I think that, you know, as far as the summer testing session for this goes, we're approaching 6 weeks, because that's what the P1 was, and I started everybody at the same time. So here we are, 6 weeks of pretty much like, I'll do the P1 and then I do the S1, back and forth like that. So I guess you can consider that 3 weeks of pure time and use, like minimum of 9 hours per day. But let's face it, I go home and I'm still walking around in these things and doing whatever. Okay, so some cool things that I've noticed. Wet traction. Wet traction on the P1 and the S1 is superb. We have had several episodes where there's rain and water and all kinds of whatever dirt for life. And then I walk into an environment inside with like slick linoleum stuff. And previously in other shoes, that would be kind of a concern as far as like slipping and tripping and all that stuff goes. Not the case at all. In fact, when this outsole gets wet, the stickiness increases significantly. So if anything, it could be a trip hazard because it's too sticky. So definitely cool as far as the outsole material rubber goes. Not that it's like, one, not breaking down, and two, has a ton of traction, both dry and wet. Okay. Yeah, guys. So here's the right shoe. Let's take a look at the left shoe in the same way and just, briefly kind of take a peek here and see if there's anything, because I do feel that a person, does not have 2 feet that are exactly the same on both sides, symmetrically. Like, I will stand on that rock. That's just the rock I will stand on. And so I would expect there to be some difference as far as the wear pattern goes for the shoes as well, given that that theory, that belief, if you will. And I think that my left foot is a little skinnier than my right foot, but I have honestly not taken big time measurements, and I'm rambling on because I'm looking for anything. I'm not trying to find and be purposeful as far as like finding errors and mistakes and breakdown, and let's do that, because let's face it, if my goal was to destroy the shoe and then report that damage, I would be disappointed, because there is just none of that stuff going on. It's none of that. And these shoes are exceeding my expectations as far as their durability goes. It's a curiosity shoe. I mean, people have been asking about it. I have people at work asking me about it, and I tell them the brand and everything, and I'm not pushing the brand. I'm not pushing the sale or any of that stuff, because obviously there are tons of options. But, here is a shoe brand that is making its debut and doing it in such a very, very cool way. But here on this channel, I can say that I'm a big fan of the Mount to Coast series, P1, S1. This is the neutral shoe. The P1 is the stability shoe. Both of these are doing very, very, very well. Okay, it's marketed as an ultra marathon shoe, but here we are using it as a lifestyle dad shoe, run around shoe, work shoe, and it does get some running time in. Okay, everybody, that's all I got for you, is a follow-up video for the Mount to Coast S1. Okay, I will continue this. Summer isn't over yet, and we can see which direction this heads. Okay, looking good, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.